we are now delighted to formally close the 2024 Ash-Carter Exchange on Innovation and National Security with an inaugural award ceremony. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Eric Schmidt, Mrs. Stephanie Carter, Senator Mark Warner, Mr. Mike Gallagher, and Ylli Bajraktari.
Thank you. Good afternoon for the last time from this podium. Thank you for coming to the second Carter Exchange. It was an honor and pleasure to have you all for the last 2 days for the incredible conversations we had here. But our intent is really to close on focusing on people. The most important ingredient to organizations, and in this case, to a nation, and our success are really the people, their know-how, their conviction, their selflessness, and their network. And Dr. Carter was really a champion of mentoring so many of you and us here on stage, and so many across the nation. And as such, we're honored to initiate the inaugural Ash-Carter Award for Innovation and National Security. I'm extremely honored to have Ms. Stephanie Carter and Dr. Eric Schmidt with me to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Ash Carter and commemorate his lasting imprint on the U.S. national security with the presentation of the first award in his name. Eric, will you please join me at the podium for a few opening remarks?
Thank you. Thank you, Ylli. And let me take a minute, Ylli, to thank you and your entire team. To say this is a huge success is to underclaim it. I don't think, aside from the car show, there's no larger event in DC. And that shows you either that we're all very smart, or we all like to party, or we all care a lot about national competitiveness and national security. You choose. But the important thing is we pulled it off, and your team did a fantastic job. Long before he was Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter recognized the defining challenge of our time was to how to harness the benefits of technology and how to shape the technology to mitigate its risks. As you know, Dr. Carter worked in the Pentagon multiple times, in addition to being a brilliant theoretical physicist, which is a combination that's hard to beat. When he took over, he reoriented the Department of Defense in terms of innovation, and one of the first things he did is called me and said, "You have to work for me." And he was so persuasive that I said yes, even though I didn't want to. Here I am a decade later, essentially fulfilling the wishes that he programmed into me. That's how great a man he really was. Today, of course, you can see the work of the Defense Innovation Board, the Defense Innovation Unit, the Defense Digital Services, and many, many more. It is his legacy that was so unique and forward-looking that we wanted to continue. The purpose around this event is essentially to honor the notion of innovation in national security. And that's why we organized, obviously working very closely with Stephanie, our last year's exchange, which we've sort of redone now for the second year. What we really wanted to do now is to begin using his name and his memory to honor the people who we have worked with who have really made a difference. And so the idea was that we would create an Ash Carter Award for Innovation and National Security for the people who got it. These are the people who understood his vision and what he wanted to have happen. So what I'm going to do is have Stephanie sort of describe this to you, but all I can say is, if you could have picked, you could not have picked better recipients to set the standard for your late husband's standard. Stephanie, please join me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to say one more time, a huge thank you to SCSP, to Ylli Ilber, and particularly to Eric. And I didn't get to say this to you before, Eric, but you wrote an incredibly touching tribute to Ash. And I know that he got as good as he gave. So thank you for all you've done for our country. Ash sort of had a saying that you had to stick up for people, right? You had to give people top cover when they were attempting hard things, where they were going to make mistakes, but they were really working on problems that are so huge. And, he also had a saying when, people would try to engage him in the latest, kind of palace intrigue or talk about politics, that Washington may have lost its manners, but I haven't. And I can't think of two more exemplary people than Senator Warner and Congressman Gallagher in terms of your manners, your integrity, your decorum. But also, there are no easy answers to the problems that you are wrestling with. And, as someone who was married to someone who read physics books in bed, it's not indicative of how cute I am, but he did. He appreciated people that worked on hard problems, and both of you have done this in your own way. And so what we really conceived of for this award was finding people that embodied Ash's civility and his bipartisanship and his decorum and his commitment to working on really hard things. And I can't think of two better people myself. And I am so honored for you both to be here today. I thank you for all the work that you're doing. I know you will go on to do great things, even though you are leaving the Congress, and it's well deserved that you maybe don't take any more red eyes for a bit and you take a little rest. But I expect you to continue, and Ash would expect you to continue to work on hard things. So I thank you both.
Does Nick read the citation?
In recognition of his distinguished service to the nation and steadfast devotion to assuring America's primacy in national security innovation, Senator Mark R. Warner is awarded the Ash Carter Award for Innovation and National Security. As chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Senator Warner has provided instrumental leadership and oversight of the U.S. intelligence community. He was one of the first oversight members to recognize that our country is entering a new era of national security challenges, one that is defined by a renewal of great power rivalry and intensified competition for advantage in key emerging technologies. Senator Warner has consistently demonstrated foresight in identifying future threats, including those that endanger our telecommunications networks and critical infrastructure, and co-founded the Senate Cybersecurity Caucus. He has tirelessly pursued the integration and employment of emerging technologies into the intelligence community to preserve America's advantage in the intelligence domain. As a longtime technology investor and executive, Senator Warner has a deep background as a champion of American innovation. As the senior senator from Virginia, he has been a stalwart proponent and advocate for a strong national defense, preserving the American way of life against omnipresent threats and autocratic designs to rescript the international order. Senator Warner has been a superlative leader in Congress, leading defense and intelligence innovation through key legislation to underpin America's national security. His record of service reflects great credit upon himself, the United States Senate, and the valued ideals of national security espoused by the 25th U.S. Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter.
Money. Okay, next. Right here. Listen, you can send NP fellows. Hey. Well, thank you, Ylli. Thank you for this tremendous award. It is a great honor to receive it. And part of the great honor to receive it is because I'm being joined in this award by my friend Mike Gallagher. Mike, to have done so much as young as he is somebody who has been, I think, a huge rising star in the Congress. What is his work that he has done on the Special Committee on China was groundbreaking. And as somebody that managed to get something that I tried for more than a year to do in terms of saying, maybe we ought to take a close look at TikTok in terms of its national security implications, I couldn't get it done. Mike Gallagher got it done. So to be joined in this award with Mike is a great honor. I also want to acknowledge my good friend Eric Schmidt. I first met Eric one of my earliest trips. I was governor out to Google. He had just come over. The boys came in and hit me, and then Eric and I started a conversation and a friendship. And there have been so many people in this country that have been blessed with doing well. Eric is one of those who's done well in technology, but has also continued to give back in so many extraordinary ways. He is a thought leader. He has helped shape, I think, national and international policy on artificial intelligence. His book with Dr. Kissinger of a year and a half ago is still the go-to source. The work you're doing here with this project and so many others. And something I don't know if he even wants to necessarily acknowledge, but Eric is doing remarkable work, standing with our allies in Ukraine and trying to make sure they provide the kind of defense capability to push back Putin's aggression. And I want to thank you so much for that as well, Eric. Yes. And Stephanie, just briefly, we were talking backstage. Your husband was extraordinary. Again, somebody I had the honor to get to know, close to 20 years ago now. I was a relatively fresh new governor that had some interest in national security. I'd not really had much of a background in it. I was more the budget nerd or the tech guy, having been in the cell phone business. But I went up to Harvard a number of times. Ash kind of helped tutor me, helped educate me. As Stephanie mentioned, the whole notion that you got to try hard things was one of the things that I think Ash installed in me, and his willingness to take on really hard things like pushing DOD to be much more forward-leaning is part of that great legacy. I think we're at an extraordinarily challenging time. We need that Ash Carter spirit more than ever. I think probably all of us in this room would agree the United States and the world faces more troubling challenges on a multi-front basis in all of recent history, at least since the fall of communism. And what I've tried to do in my small way as chairman of the Intelligence Committee, which until Mike's committee came around was the last fully functioning bipartisan committee in the whole Congress. I think he's tried to compete a little bit and put some good points on the board on a bipartisan basis in a much harder body in the House. But if there's been one value add I've tried to think about is recognizing that in this period, strategic competition, national security goes beyond simply who has the most tanks, guns, ships, and planes. It really is, particularly with an adversary or potential adversary like China, a technology competition. Who is the entity that is going to do the breakthroughs in wireless technology and 5G? And Huawei was a great wake-up call for me as a former telecom guy. Who is going to make sure that we unlock the potential of quantum computing? Who understands that even things like bio or SMRs in terms of creating the power to power all the data centers going forward are all parts of the national security umbrella. And obviously, artificial intelligence at the peak of all of those entities. I think that effort to try to expand the definition of national security would be right down the lane of Ash Carter. So in that spirit, I am very proud to accept this award, and I'm very grateful for this recognition. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. That's the kid list.
Oops.
In recognition of his distinguished service to the nation and steadfast devotion to assuring America's primacy in national security innovation, the Honorable Michael J. Gallagher is awarded the Ash Carter Award for Innovation and National Security. As a Marine Corps intelligence officer and a veteran of the Iraq War, Mr. Gallagher has firsthand experience in defending our nation against its enemies. As chairman of the House Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, Mr. Gallagher shaped a bipartisan response to the challenges posed by the People's Republic of China, most recently exemplified in his orchestrating of the measure that will protect our nation and millions of Americans from the current dangers of platforms controlled by nations of concern. Through his unwavering leadership and bipartisanship, the committee exposed the extent of malign CCP efforts to upend America's global leadership and the international order that have promoted global prosperity since the end of World War II. As a member of the House Armed Services Committee, Mr. Gallagher pressed for and enacted key legislation to innovate and evolve the defense sector to leverage key emerging technologies, to address new threats, and to pioneer next-generation research and development to prepare the nation for challenges that await over the horizon. His record of service reflects great credit upon himself, the United States House of Representatives, and the valued ideals of national security espoused by the 25th U.S. Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do that. Oh, do this one? Do this.
Perfect.
Wow, thank you. You know, if I knew that when I left Congress, people were going to start giving me awards, I would have resigned a long time ago. Now that I'm unemployed, I may have to pawn this for a meal. Ylli, thank you so much for your friendship, for your leadership. The fact that you put this all together is absolutely incredible, and I think a testament to your prodigious skill, and I look forward to finding ways to work with you in the future. Dr. Schmidt, thank you for your generosity, for your intellectual leadership. You know, there's a lot of these various boards that exist to help the Defense Department, the intelligence community think through issues, and we get a lot of fancy names and outside experts to populate these boards. Quite honestly, it's rare for them to have an impact, but under your leadership, the Defense Innovation Board, I think, was truly transformative. And the fact that you've carried on that passion in everything you've done since, and the fact that you, when most people were running away from testifying before my select committee, you eagerly embraced the opportunity and delivered some of the most remarkable testimony that shaped our thinking, particularly on the economic and technological dimensions of this competition. I can't thank you enough. It's just been really a privilege to get to know you. Stephanie, I only got to meet Ash once, but I was a long admirer of his, and I remember a foreign affairs article he wrote in 2015 or 2016 that described everything it took to get the MRAP program off the ground and fielded, and this was sort of the biggest deployment of a new system in a short period of time going back to World War II, was at least the claim he made in the article. And to hear him describe all of the internal resistance and all the bureaucratic barriers that he had to break down, it was at once troubling in that this is what it takes, the engagement of the top of the Defense Department to get anything big done, but also truly inspiring. And in a system that we did not optimize for efficiency, that's what it takes to get anything big done. People of good faith just willing to throw themselves against that brick wall every single day because they care deeply about the mission and they don't care who gets the credit. And I think Ash Carter exemplified that spirit of true statesmanship that few people actually attain. So I'm honored to have an award that bears his name, and I hope that this, whatever I do next, will continue to honor his legacy. Thank you very much. Senator Warner, you unfairly gave me credit for passing the Protecting from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. The truth is, as much, if not more, of the credit belongs to you. You were out there long before I was, elucidating and explaining the threat posed by foreign adversary controlled apps, and to have someone with your credibility. And it's hard to think of someone who is as widely respected across the aisle by everyone inside of government, in industry. It is remarkable just the respect you command and the way you've conducted your committee. The effort would not have succeeded without your leadership, and the fact that you were willing to reach out, spend time to me, answer all my dumb questions when most senators don't even acknowledge the existence of members of the House. I think it demonstrates just a selflessness that is rare in Washington, D.C. these days. And so thank you for everything you've done, and I'm truly honored to share this award with you. You know, in closing, I was asked recently, if I had any thoughts for my colleagues upon leaving the House, and I sort of offhandedly said, drink more and tweet less. Now, I should note that at the time I was still the representative from Northeast Wisconsin, which has Wisconsin has 6 of the top 10 drunkest cities in America, and 2 of the top 3 are in my district, Green Bay and Appleton. So I felt like I had a duty to represent Northeast Wisconsin at the time. But what I was actually trying to convey is that as I look back on my 8 years in Congress, and I look back on some of the successes I had, all of them were a function of personal relationships I was able to forge, particularly when those relationships were bipartisan. It wasn't that I was a great op-ed writer or I got things done through the sheer force of my intellect. It wasn't a function of my fundraising prowess. It was just a willingness to forge friendships that was critical to getting anything done in Congress. And that's what we need
more of. Just people being willing to talk to each other, being willing to compromise without compromising their principles. That was certainly the story of the bill that we just got passed together. And so my hope is that a lot of the newer members that are coming into Congress will exemplify that ethos. And I leave nothing but just more grateful to be a citizen of this incredible country. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about the future of defense, we can talk about hard power, we can talk about technological innovation, we can talk about how to break down barriers to collaboration with our allies, but what it all comes down to, in my opinion, is our ability to transmit that basic love of country to the next generation. And we are lucky indeed to be living in the greatest country in human history. So thank you very much, and God bless America.
Hey, so
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me? Okay, before I close, I just wanted to raise the report we're going to release soon after the expo. It's how winning looks like 2025, 2030. And we'll send to all the members and people that attended the expo the PDF. In closing, I want to thank Stephanie, Julie, and the entire Carter family for being a tremendous partner to us and helping us organize this tremendous event, honoring the legacy of Dr. Carter. I want to thank Eric. Eric doesn't get a lot of things, but ever since I've met him, he has nothing been short of a supporter, mentor, and a guide to do bigger and better things to make our country better positioned for this century, I would argue. So Eric, thank you so much as always. I want to thank my Representative Gallagher and Senator Warner for being here with us tonight. Lastly, I want to thank the incredible SCSP team. You guys are amazing. I want to thank Ylli and the defense team for putting this together single-handedly. So thank you so much. It's hard to thank your brother, but I have to do it because he did it. And we're going to close the expo soon, but thank you so much. This was better than we all expected when we started planning this almost 5 months ago. And we'll see you next year, and we'll do bigger and better things. And thank you all. Have a good evening.